Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Is Neutrality Not Enough? This will be Part 5, Chapter 5. Do you want to eat katsudon tonight? Izuku's mom asks. They're at a grocery store getting the food for tonight's dinner. Izuku nods enthusiastically. All right, can you go grab the eggs? Izuku walks over to the aisle with the eggs and tries to decide what brand to get. He wonders why there are so many to choose from. They're only eggs. Suddenly, the door to the store blows off its hinges. A villain with long purple hair and pale skin sits crouched in the door opening. Immediately, Izuku recognizes him. It's the villain Craze. He's been causing havoc for a few weeks now, and each time manages to escape the heroes. People think that his quirk can make cracks in every non-living thing. Izuku made an entry about the villain just a few days ago in his notebook. He also realizes that said villain is now in the store where civilians are, him and his mom included, which means they are in danger. Craze always causes many civilians to be caught up in his attacks. Izuku realizes all this within a few seconds. In that time, the villain has pressed his hands against the ground, and cracks start forming from the ground underneath his hands and spread through the entire store. Pieces of ceiling and walls start peeling off. People start screaming and running around in a panic. "Mom!" Izuku shouts, and he tries to run back to where his mom last was. But before he can move, the shelf to his right side comes loose from the wall and starts falling. Quickly, Izuku dives under a table in the middle of the aisle that showcases a new brand of toilet paper. With a loud bang, the shelf hits the table. Izuku luckily doesn't get hit, but all the toilet paper gets scattered over the ground. The villain springs up from his crouched position and runs to the back of the store where he tries to pry the back door open. It appears to be locked because the door doesn't open. Suddenly, a huge wave of heat fills the store. Izuku turns his eyes to the source of all the heat and sees Endeavor standing at the entrance looking very pissed. "Villain, surrender!" Crave just ignores Endeavor and presses his hands against the door. Endeavor does not seem to like that because he shoots a huge fireball at the villain, heating the store up even more in the process. Izuku can't believe it. Endeavor shouldn't be using these moves in a building with an obvious weakened structure and civilians still in the building. And where is his mom? Endeavor should be worrying about the civilians. Maybe he hasn't noticed them yet. So Izuku takes a deep breath, though that is getting increasingly more difficult with all the smoke forming, and shouts, "Endeavor, help! There are civilians in here! I think the building might collapse!" Endeavor just ignores him. He ignores all the other cries for help from the other people in the store. He runs toward the villain and uses another fireball. Crave lets out a pained scream, but that moment, the door has enough cracks that he can easily push through, and he flees the store. Izuku sighs a little from relief. Now that the villain is gone, Endeavor can save them from the collapsing store. But no, Endeavor doesn't do that. He follows Crave outside the store, without sparing them even a glance. People call for help, or they call for each other. Izuku can only stare shocked at the space where both the hero and the villain disappeared. Then he remembers his mom, and he frantically panics again. Where is she? He just starts pushing the toilet paper out of the way to be able to crawl out from underneath the table when the building partially collapses. The already weakened structure because of Crave received its final blow by the flames from Endeavor. It groans and creaks. There is a loud crash. Smoke mixes with dust, making the air almost impossible to breathe. Screams are cut off. For a while, it is completely silent. Izuku can only sit dazed under the table. Dust clings to his messy green hair. His breathing becomes more labored by the polluted air. He doesn't notice. Then he gets brought back to reality by one thought. Where is Mom? Oh God, where is his mom? Is she okay? What happened to her? Surely the rubble didn't. Izuku doesn't finish the thought. Fear washes over him, but he pushes it away. He just needs to get to his mother. She is fine. He crawls out from underneath the table to the side. The front is blocked by a large piece of rubble. Guess this table saved me from that. He stands up and looks around. It is difficult to see very far because of the dust. Around the store, he hears some people groan, but Izuku ignores them and instead stumbles down the aisle and to the right where his mom last was. She'll be okay. He will round this corner, and she'll be sitting on the ground He stops in his tracks. There's a huge piece of rubble blocking most of the aisle. There's some space at the front where food is scattered over the ground, and between all the scattered goods, someone lays, half stuck under the collapsed ceiling. His mom. She lays on her back, only the upper part of her body sticking out from under the rubble. Her usual neatly pinned up green hair is now messy and matted with what is probably blood coming from the gash on her forehead. Dust clings to her body, smudging on her face. Her eyes are open, thank God, but dulled and unfocused. "Mom!" Izuku cries. He crouches down beside her and takes her hand. Her eyes track the movement and focus on his face. "Izuku," she mumbles weakly. Izuku's eyes brim tears, but he furiously blinks them away. He needs to help his mom. "Hold on, Mom. I'll get help to free you." He tries for a reassuring smile, like All Might would do, but doesn't really succeed. "Wait, Izuku. I need to tell you something," his mom says. Her eyes are suddenly completely focused again. Izuku waits and asks, "What is it? I need to free you." His eyes are drawn to the place where she is stuck under the rubble. Blood is starting to pool from underneath it. "Izuku, promise me you'll live a happy life. Can you do that?" she asks. Her sentence ends in wet coughing, blood spewing from her mouth. Izuku feels his panic rise. "You're coughing up blood, Mom! You need help!" Frantically, his hands hover above his mom's body. He needs to help her somehow. His mom grabs both his hands, and her eyes look at him so very sad. "I need you to promise me, Izuku." Now tears are spilling down his face, but he manages to say, I promise, Mom, but why are you saying all this?" She smiles at him. It's a sad smile, but also one full of warmth. "I don't have long, Izuku. Just know I'm so proud of you already." "What do you mean? The heroes will come. We'll go home together and make Katsudan and we'll watch that one TV show." Izuku sobs. His tears make watery tracks down his dust-filled face and splash onto his lap. His mom cups his face with one hand and wipes away his tears. She coughs up more blood. "I love you, Izuku." Izuku grips the hand that holds his face and looks at her. Her ever-kind face, her green eyes, the little laugh wrinkles next to her eyes. "I love you too, Mom." "Mom? Mom? Mom?" His mom's hand has gone limp in his grip, her eyes completely lifeless, her body still, unmoving. Izuku sobs. He grips his mother's body and cries. He cries for his sweet and kind mother, always there after a tough day at school, ready with freshly baked cookies. His mother who always supported him in his dream to become a hero despite his quirklessness. His mother who would hide under a blanket when he was little and call for help so he, Small Might, could save her. He always did. Always found her and saved her, rescuing her from underneath the blanket. Not this time. He doesn't know how long he sits there, in the dust holding the lifeless body of his mother, surrounded by rubble and cries from other customers who survived. At some point he hears the faint sound of police arriving. He doesn't pay it any mind. He just sits by his mom's body and cries. At some point, other heroes arrive at the scene and begin rescuing the civilians. Izuku vaguely registers people being carried away on stretchers. Then someone is calling out for him. "Kid? Little listener, are you there?" With tears blurring his vision, Izuku looks up to his side. Present Mike is standing next to him, with a concerned look on his face. My mom," he croaks. His voice is hoarse from all the crying. Present Mike puts a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Do you want to come with me? Get you out of here?" Izuku looks down at his mom again, and more tears slip down his face. He doesn't want to leave her. Present Mike must see the look on his face because he says, "We'll get your mother later, okay? For now you have to get checked up in case you have any injuries." I don't want to leave her. The hero nudges his shoulder. I know, little listener, but we have to get you out of here. Can you stand? Izuku nods weakly, and the hero guides him up and starts walking away with him down the aisle. Izuku looks back one last time. No. He tries to break free from the grip Present Mike has on him. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay by her side. It doesn't work. The grip the hero has on him is too strong. He tries a bit harder to escape the grip and tugs backward towards his mom desperately, tears streaming down his face. His voice cracks as he screams, "Mom!" Izuku wakes up with a gasp, his chest heaving. He looks around in panic, searching for his mom. But he isn't back there. He's in his room. It was just another nightmare. He kicks away his comforter. It's too hot and it feels constricting. He sits up in bed and tries to calm down his breathing. The air still feels too hot, so he moves to open a window and sits down on the windowsill, taking in the cool night air. Thanks to the breeze that cools his face and the sounds of traffic in the distance, Izuku manages to calm down a little. It's not unusual for him to have nightmares. It is, in fact, quite common. He never manages to sleep afterwards. Izuku looks up at the sky, where there should be stars. Surprisingly, they are visible tonight, if not faintly. He traces the few constellations that are visible and is thankful that it is a clear night. Looking up at them and imagining his mom looking down on him always helps to soothe him. After a while, he grabs his laptop and sits down to do some work. Going to sleep won't work anyway. Besides, he's going over to Shinso's tonight, so better to have all his things done. That night, Izuku is sitting in Shinso's room. They're both just hanging out and listening to some music. Izuku's reading one of Shinso's manga. His friend is scrolling through some sort of forum on his phone. Hey, looks like Endeavor won another award. Izuku scoffs. Like he needs even more fuel for his flaming ego. Shinso looks up from his phone and studies him for a few seconds, before seeming to decide on something. Why don't you like Endeavor? A lot of people don't like Endeavor. Izuku deadpans. Shinso snorts at that. Yeah, I know. I also don't really like him, but you always react. He trails off, as if not really knowing exactly how to describe it. Angry? Like I hate him more than anything in this world? Like he's the worst hero around? How he doesn't deserve the number 2 spot? Izuku finishes. His friend nods. Yeah, exactly. Is there, I don't know, a specific reason? Izuku sighs. Guess I can tell him. Around 2 years ago, my mom and I were in that grocery store, where the villain Craze last attacked. You remember? Shinso looks confused at him, but nods. Endeavor was the one to apprehend him, but in doing so, a lot of civilians got caught in the crossfire. Craze had already weakened the structure in the building, but Endeavor was the one who wasn't careful. Because he used a lot of fire, it made the building collapse. He didn't look back to see if people were injured. He only had eyes for the villain. Shinso's face had gone pale as he hears the story. Izuku takes another deep breath and swallows away the lump in his throat. It's getting harder to talk with a normal voice. My mom, His voice cracks. Died because of him. Because of Endeavor. That's why I hate him so much. Why didn't they talk about that on the news? His friend asks, and disbelief and anger sounds in his voice. Izuku laughs, humorless. They always sweep it under the rug. He feels a tear roll down his cheek. Shinso looks at him with a sad expression on his face, and then moves forward and hugs Izuku. It's an awkward hug, but Izuku appreciates the comfort. I'm sorry I asked, his friend mumbles in his hair. Izuku manages a soft smile. It's okay. It helped that I talked about it. I haven't done that in a long time. After that, Izuku and Shinso bash Endeavor together. It brightens the mood, and when it is time for dinner, they are full-on laughing whilst looking at a post with some really funny and embarrassing pictures of the man. Come on, dinner is ready. I think both my dads are home, too. Izuku is not surprised to see Present Mike and Eraserhead sitting at the dinner table. I mean, he is Owl of all people. He's done his research. Did you think he was going to panic because the underground hero investigating his informant persona was the father of his only friend? Yeah, think not. Okay, maybe a little, but who doesn't? Though he still gasps exasperated and prods Shinso in his side. He has to keep up his civilian persona a little, okay? And maybe he still kind of likes the two heroes here. You didn't tell me your parents were heroes! Shinso raises an eyebrow. It never came up. Shinso! Izuku pouts. A laugh sounds from the table. Sho, they're adorable! Izuku turns his head and sees Present Mike laughing and Eraserhead with his usual emotionless expression. He hurries over to the table and bows. I'm Izuku Midoriya, Shinso's friend. And wow, you're Present Mike and Eraserhead. Nice to meet you, little listener. When I'm out of costume, you can just call me Yamada. Eraserhead over here, you can call Aizawa. Though I'm surprised you recognized him. President Mike, Yamada says. Shit. I've forgotten how many people recognize him. Shinso and Izuku sit down at the table, and Izuku rubs the back of his neck awkwardly. Yeah, when I was younger, I was a huge hero fanboy. If the heroes notice the was in his sentence, they don't comment on it. Instead, Yamada begins loading everyone's plates full with food. Homemade tacos. Ooh, tacos! It's been a while since I've last had them. Yamada looks up surprised at him. You've had them before. Before he can comment on it, Shinso already says, he went abroad to America with his father for a year. He's even fluent in English. Izuku nods and Yamada immediately starts asking questions about his time there. Aizawa just listens to the conversation, and Shinso sometimes gives some comments. The tacos are delicious. Izuku talks about his school for a bit, and that is how they find themselves talking about the up-and-coming sports festival. You made the training schedule for Hitoshi, right? It's the first thing Aizawa says to Izuku. His eyes scan Izuku as if trying to decide whether Izuku could be trusted with that. Geez, Eraserhead is so suspicious. Well, maybe in this case you're right. Izuku chuckles nervously. Yeah, it's a hobby of mine to analyze quirks and stuff, so I thought that maybe I could help Shinso out. Aizawa's eyes narrow a bit, and he looks like he wants to ask something, but Shinso breaks their little staring contest by laughing and saying, Oh, remember how I told you that I met Midoriya in that cafe I've been studying in? Well, when I, told him my quirk, he immediately came up with ways to use it and stuff. He even thought it would be useful for heroics. His parents perk up at that, as if Izuku just gained some points by saying so. Meanwhile, Izuku is blushing heavily. You would almost think that he has an analysis quirk. Oh God, why did Shinso have to add that? Yamada looks at him surprised. Oh? You don't have an analysis quirk? I really thought so. Izuku sips from the glass of water, debating whether he should tell the heroes that he is quirkless. He could say that he has some other mental quirk, but Shinso already knows that he is quirkless, and Izuku really doesn't know how he would explain to his friend why he lied to his parents. So he sets his glass down and answers. I, am quirkless, actually. Aizawa raises his eyebrows. Yamada was in the middle of taking a bite out of his taco, but the poor taco falls on the plate, the filling falling out. Wow. The hero seems to realize how shit his reaction is, and hurries to add. Don't worry, we don't really care whether you have a quirk or not. I mean, my quirk is really loud, and Sho's quirk is also not really something everyone appreciates. Izuku opens and closes his mouth a few times, but no sound comes out. Damn, maybe he shouldn't have sold all his Present Mike merch when he was 13. He looks at Shinso, who laughs at the face Izuku makes, and he shoves his shoulder. You really look like a fish right now. Izuku splutters some incomprehensible sounds at that and flails his hands embarrassed in front of his face. This makes Shinso laugh even harder. Yamada chuckles at the boy's antics. Izuku also doesn't fail to notice Aizawa hiding a small smile in the capture scarf he always seems to be wearing. When they've calmed down some, Izuku remembers something. He perks up in his chair and looks enthusiastically at Shinso. Also, you're not going to believe this, but my dad managed to get tickets to the sports festival. Shinso's eyes blow wide. No way. Izuku laughs. Yup, so you better kick some ass. Wait. Your father managed to get tickets to the sports festival? Yamada asked, disbelieving. Because, wow, I know those tickets get sold out quickly. You're lucky, little listener. I think my father had some contacts from work, which is why he was able to get them. Well, be on the lookout for me and Sho here because... Yamada swings his arm over Aizawa's shoulder. We are presenting the festival for the first years. Aizawa glares at Yamada. No, we're not. But Sho, we talked about this. Yamada whines. No. But... You're getting Dad to give commentary with you? Shinso looks in between laughter and disbelief. Yep. No. Aizawa glares at Yamada, and the two seem to have a silent conversation between them. Then Aizawa sighs, long and suffering. Fine, but you are buying me coffee at that one place for a month. Yamada beams at his husband. Deal. Shinso turns to Izuku with a wide grin. Kaminari owes me 600 yen. When dinner is finished, Izuku hurries to get his backpack and is about to go home when Yamada asks, Are your parents picking you up? Shit. Izuku turns away from the door and smiles at the voice hero. No. I live with my aunt and she's away for a business trip. You don't live with your parents? The tired voice of Aizawa asks as he approaches. Dad. Shinso tries, but Izuku interrupts through clenched teeth. No, I don't. The words come out harsher than expected, and they leave a tense silence. Izuku glares at Aizawa, daring the man to ask further. Yamada is about to say something when Aizawa nods, though his eyes narrow. Shinso clears his throat and waves awkwardly at Izuku. See you. Izuku tears his gaze away from Aizawa and smiles at his friend. Yeah, it was fun today. He turns to the two adults and his smile grows strained, looking at Aizawa. Thank you for the dinner. It was delicious. Of course, little listener. You're more than welcome to visit again, Yamada says. The man seems to be happy to move the conversation away from that awkward topic. Izuku nods and then leaves. Could a conversation have ended any worse? Today is the day of the sports festival. Shoto is walking along the long hallways under the stadium, trying to focus somewhere other than the busy changing room. A lot of his classmates were really enthusiastic this morning when he arrived in the changing room. They were full with brimming energy and anticipation for the festival. Shoto left the room as fast as possible after changing, preferring to find somewhere quiet until they have to gather. His steps through the empty hallways are even and full of purpose. They echo through the hallways and the sound bounces off the walls as a constant drum. He stares at no point in particular, somewhere in front of him, as he organizes his thoughts. I'm going to win, he thinks as he clenches his fists. Only using her quirk. He will show that bastard that he won't bow down to him, that he will do this his way, that his quirk won't be necessary. The vow he made all those years ago will make sure of that. When he rounds the corner and finds himself back at the student's entrance, he sees someone standing there. Shoto frowns. All the students are supposed to be in the changing rooms. Maybe he is also trying to find somewhere quiet. Shoto shakes his head. He doesn't recognize him, and he isn't even wearing the required sports uniform. As he approaches the figure, their head whips around staring directly at Shoto. Intense, toxic green eyes scan him in under a second, and Shoto feels like he's being dissected and put under a microscope, all his weaknesses known to the other. His senses scream danger, but before he can act on them, the glare from the other lessons and something akin to recognition flashes across his eyes. The eyes seem to light up and become bright green, all the intensity gone. Green curls of hair bounce a little as the other smiles slightly at Shoto. Shoto realizes that the other is a teenager around his age. He also realizes that said teenager is not allowed to be here. "You're not supposed to be here," Shoto says as he stops just away from the teenager. "I, actually wanted to wish Shinso good luck." The other answers. He looks a little nervous and rubs with his hand at the back of his neck. "You're his friend?" Shoto asks. His voice is even, but he kind of wants to know. Shinso doesn't seem like the type to have friends, but maybe that just is in their class. Or maybe Shoto missed it. He lunches alone and doesn't stay long after classes, so he wouldn't really know how his classmates act outside of class. He himself doesn't have time to make friends. He also doesn't really know how to, because his old man thought it was a waste of time when instead he could be training. Yeah, I managed to get tickets and wanted to surprise him, but I don't know where to find him, and I really want to wish him good luck." The green-haired teen dissolves into incomprehensible muttering, seeming to forget that he is talking to someone. Shoto finds the teenager weirder by the minute, and he doesn't really know what to think of him. He decides to cut off his muttering. "I can take you to him." The other smacks a hand over his mouth, and Shoto swears he hears a mumbled, "Damn, I really need to control my muttering." The teenager removes his hand and looks apologetically at Shoto. "Sorry, I tend to mutter, but if you want to, it'd be nice if you could take me to him." Shoto nods, and he turns around to where the changing rooms are. The teenager hurriedly follows him. They walk in silence for some time, though after a while, the other seems to want to say something. He opens and closes his mouth a few times. Shoto thinks he looks like a fish. "I'm Izuku Midoriya, by the way." Shoto nods. "Shoto Todoroki." They arrive at the changing room and Shoto steps inside. His classmates have calmed down a little. Some of them are now trying to concentrate while others are chatting with one another. "Shinso, a friend is here for you." Midoriya steps into the changing room and gives a half wave at the class, most of whom are following the conversation because of the rare occasion that Todoroki talks to someone. Shinso's eyes blow wide, and he tries to say something, but before he can, a chair clatters to the ground with a loud thud. "What the fuck are you doing here, Deku?" Bakugo has jumped up from his chair, scowling at Midoriya. Midoriya just blinks at the teen, not at all seeming to be fazed by the attitude. "Oh, hello, Bakugo, didn't see you there." This seems to anger Bakugo even more, because he pushes the table in front of him to the side and stomps his way to Midoriya. By now, the entire class is staring at them, and Shoto can't really blame them. He's kind of confused by the way Bakugo reacts, but it seems the two have some history together. "Fucking answer me, shitty nerd!" Bakugo growls into Midoriya's face. Midoriya just stares him coldly in the eye. "I'm here to see Shinso, like Todoroki said." "What the?" "Hey, Bakugo." Shinso has moved from where he was sitting and is now standing a bit behind Bakugo. Bakugo's head whips around and he glares at the purple-haired teen. "What, eyebags?" "Sit down and don't bother us." Bakugo's eyes glaze over and he moves to pick up his chair and then plops down on it. Midoriya smiles sheepishly at all of Shoto's classmates. His expression is all happy and soft again. "Sorry about that. Me and Bakugo don't really get along." The class just nods or says it's okay. Ashido shouts she wants to hear the tea before Sero drags her to the other side of the room. Shoto doesn't really get that. You drink tea. You don't listen to it. It's also probably not the best to drink it before exercising. Shoto decides that he has nothing to do with this anymore, and he goes back to his corner of the changing room to get his focus back for the upcoming events. It doesn't really work, though, because Shinso and Midoriya move to his side of the room to talk. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to surprise you. Wish you good luck and stuff." "But But how did you even get in this side of the building? Todoroki looks up at that, curious to Midoriya's answer. He isn't normally an eavesdropper, really, but you try not to eavesdrop when listening to some weird kid that managed to sneak into the restricted area of the stadium, even with all the added security. Midoriya just shrugs at Shinso's question. Shinso huffs. Fine, keep your secrets. The green-haired teen laughs at that. Todoroki turns to himself again and moves a little further away to start stretching. Meanwhile, he can still hear some of the conversation going on. Good luck. He stretches his legs. Thanks. Remember, don't use his fire. I'll show him. Training regimen. Work? Todoroki really tunes out now, focusing solely on his stretching. When he's almost finished with the stretching, he catches the end of the conversation. And beat Bakugo up a little for me if you can. Of course. Todoroki looks up to see Midoriya walking to the door of the changing room. He looks back at the class with a bright smile. Good luck, everyone. I'm sure you'll all do amazing. He is followed by a chorus of thanks. Midoriya's eyes sweep over the classroom for a second, as if sizing them all up. Todoroki feels a chill run down his spine at the look in the other teen's eyes. Then it brightens again. He waves at them, and then he is gone, leaving the class with a few more minutes until they have to come up. He decides that Midoriya is odd. That really is the only way to describe him. He was sunshine and smiles to his friend and Shoto's classmates, but against Bakugo, and on other odd moments, his entire demeanor seems to shift, like a switch or a second personality. Shoto had seen the look of Midoriya in those moments, and it was cold, calculating, like you were being dissected at that very moment. Shoto knows most of his classmates didn't notice this, but when you live with Endeavor in one house, you kind of have to pay attention to the small changes in atmosphere if you don't want to end up with another training session. Shoto blinks a few times to get rid of that train of thought. Now is not the time to worry about a random teenager. He has a festival to win. With that, Shoto steps out of the changing room, heading to the field together with his classmates. When lunch arrives, the first 2 rounds have already been finished. Izuku has also filled up his notebook quite a bit with new analysis. The first round was an obstacle course. Not surprisingly, the Todoroki kid placed first, and unfortunately, Bakugo second. Shinso placed a bit lower, but Izuku was not surprised by that. It was better for him to keep his quirk under wraps until the 3rd round. The second round was a cavalry battle. Todoroki placed first again, just as Bakugo placed second again. What was surprising was that Shinso placed 3rd together with the zero-gravity girl, a boy with a bird face and a dark shadow, and Mei. Honestly, Izuku thought their team was really well balanced out power-wise, but against UA's resident powerhouses you can't do very much when you play on an open field. That's why Izuku thought the festival was honestly bullshit. People with quirks like Shinso would have a major disadvantage against people with flashy quirks, whilst in the field, and in the shadowy alleys, those people were the ones to shine. Already thinking about the upcoming tournament, and who would have to fight who, Izuku follows the rest of the crowd outside to get lunch. The atmosphere is buzzing with excitement. People are chattering with each other about the past 2 rounds and who they think has a chance at winning the next round. The heroes who are attending the festival are talking with each other about who they think has potential, and who they want to extend an internship offer to. Once outside, Izuku splits off from the masses and goes to find the place where the students are having lunch. Shinso had texted him to meet him there. Izuku goes to get them food, sits down at a table, texts Shinso where he could find him, and then waits for 5 minutes. Frowning, he looks around if he might have missed Shinso. All the other students are already here after all. Are you looking for someone? Izuku looks up to see the zero-gravity girl standing there. Uraraka, if he's not mistaken. She is holding a plate of food and is looking at him questioningly. Yeah. I'm looking for Shinso. Do you know where I can find him? I last saw him in the tunnels underneath the stadium, so I would check there if I were you, she says, smiling brightly at him. Izuku smiles back and stands up to go find his friend. Thanks. It's Uraraka. She giggles. Thanks, Uraraka. I'm just gonna go find my friend. He waves and then walks away. He hears her say, "See you, Deku." She doesn't see him grimacing at the name. It doesn't take Izuku super long to find Shinso. He is somewhere near the entrance. The sound of someone else being there with him makes it so Izuku halts his steps a bit away from the tunnel where his friend is standing. It sounds like he is talking with someone, or rather, someone is talking to him. Who on earth would want to speak to Shinso right now? Mom. Boiling water. What the? Vowed. Not. His fire. Okay, never mind. Izuku turns around and promptly walks away. He will just see Shinso at their lunch table. He is not dealing with any more Todoroki drama. He won't. One of the brothers' drama is more than enough. Once Shinso joins him at the lunch table, he's awfully quiet. Izuku can guess why. He congratulates Shinso, and once Mei joins their table, and Izuku formally introduces Mei as that one crazy friend to Shinso, the mood lightens. Soon the break is over, and everyone heads back to the stands, or in Shinso's case, to the prep rooms to prepare for their matches. If Izuku saw correctly, Shinso was up against a blonde student from 1B. Monoma? The first match is not even a fight. As soon as Midnight starts the match, Shinso asks something and Monoma answers with arrogance. 30 seconds later, Monoma is standing out of bounds, and the crowd is cheering mildly. No one's really sure what to think of the match. Izuku decides to congratulate Shinso. The next match will be in 10 minutes, so if he's quick, he can make it back. Don't be a disgrace like your brothers. The words are spat like venom. Izuku stops dead in his tracks. That voice. It's him. His mom's murderer. The voice comes from the hallway just around the corner. You're my greatest creation. Remember that, Shoto. Anger runs through Izuku like poison, burning and intense. He starts to shake and balls his fist. Calm down, you're at UA. You can't do anything now. The rat is probably watching. He leans against the wall. His breathing is ragged, his nails digging into his palm. Is that all you have to say to me? The other voice is cold as ice. It belongs to Todoroki. I will not use your power. I will only use hers. The hallway gets a few degrees hotter. Izuku can only imagine the flames on Endeavor's costume flaring up. He has to remind himself of the plan. He and Dabi have been working on it for months now. He can't just ditch that. Still, anger is coursing through him. Even though the flames are still a hallway away, they remind him of that day. The burning heat, dust in the air, screams sounding. Stop. Soon, you will stop this rebellion, Shoto. You'll come back to me begging for help. No answer is given, only the very sudden decrease in temperature. Heavy, angry footsteps approach the hallway Izuku is standing in. Quickly, he pushes himself off of the wall and forces himself to look calm and composed. Rounding the corner and bumping into Izuku in his flaming hero suit, with a scowl on his face, is Endeavor. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 5 of Is Neutrality Not Enough? Chapter 6 will be up next. Drop those comments below. I want to hear your thoughts and reactions to this one. It was a much longer chapter this time, so I'm eager to hear what you all thought. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.